What's going on everyone, GHJ TV here, back for another video, and in today's video I'm going to review the 2015-16 Premier League season, starting with, the bottom half of the table, and then talk about the top half of the table later on. So without further ado, let's get into it. Kicking things off with Aston Villa. I mean, there's not really much to say about Aston Villa this season, and everyone knows how poor they've been. Quite unexpected really, actually, considering at the start of the season I didn't think many people would have predicted them to finish bottom of the league on 17 points. They've had it throughout the season. They've had a lot of internal problems with the club. Their owner. There was a lot of protests about him. I think he sold them for about 75 million in the end. So Villa fans will be at least happy about that. But I mean, throughout the season, they didn't even show glimpses of quality. And they haven't got many Premier League quality players because in the summer they sold Delph, Benteke, and to be fair, I think Aston Villa, we could see them in the Championship for a while now, as much as I'd like to see them back in the Premier League soon, because they're a club with a lot of history and a lot of tradition. But overall, Aston Villa, I'm going to have to give them a 1 out of 10. Very poor season for them. And like I said, hopefully they do bounce back up, but I think it's going to be unlikely. Next is Norwich City, who finished second bottom. A team sort of throughout the season, in my opinion, it went a bit under the radar. They weren't, a team getting battered week in, week out. They were getting decent results. They got a good result against Man United, which I can remember, a good 3 points there. But they didn't get enough Premier League proven players in the summer. So they had a Championship squad. They did have a few players of quality like Nathan Redmond, but they didn't get enough of them, and that's why they've gone down. So that's why I'm going to give Norwich City, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 10. Next, finishing third from bottom, was Newcastle United. I mean, what were they doing appointing Steve McLaren at the start of the season? I mean, what has he done to earn a job at Newcastle? He's, when he managed England, he done really poor with them, with the golden generation. Players like Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard in their prime, Rooney in his prime, and he failed with them. So what are they going to expect? And Newcastle this year, I think, in my opinion, should be getting at least mid-table. And the fact that they've got relegated into the Championship just baffles me. But if they can keep hold of Rafa Benitez, I think they will bounce back up. If they can keep hold of a few of their good players like Mitrovic, Perez can be decent. Players like Shelby, who on his day is brilliant, and Lascelles, the centre-back that's come through recently. If they can keep a few of them players and keep Benitez, I think they've got a good chance of bouncing back up next season. But a very poor season. I think that if they'd have appointed Rafa Benitez about a month earlier, I think they would have stayed up. But they left it too late, and overall I'm going to give Newcastle a 2 out of 10. Next is Sunderland, and I mean, what else is there to say about Sunderland? They've done it again. Another great escape. They was in the bottom 3 for the majority of the season, and they've escaped it again. I think many people saw this coming because they do it every year, and they appointed a good manager in Sam Allardyce, who's a very good manager to try and keep you in the Premier League. He does it with everyone. He got West Ham into the Premier League and kept them up, got them to a good position, and then obviously they've pushed on since then. But can he do the same with Sunderland? I'm not too sure. He'll probably be there for a few seasons. I don't think they'll get rid of him because he will keep them up. He won't get them relegated next season. But overall, if they didn't stay up, it'd probably be a 2 out of 10 for Sunderland. But because they sneaked it at the end, they put some good performances together. They were scoring goals. They were tight at the back. So I'm going to give Sunderland a 7 out of 10. The fact that they've stayed up, that's brilliant. The next team was Bournemouth. A brilliant season in my opinion for Eddie Howe and Bournemouth. Their target was to stay up in the Premier League this season, and they've done it. Not many people gave them a chance at the start of the season. I thought they was going to go straight back down, and I think I thought they would go straight back down, and many others did as well. But Eddie Howe's done brilliantly considering the injury, how unlucky they got with injuries at the start of the season. But a brilliant season for Bournemouth. If they can strengthen their squad in the summer, get a few of their injured players back. Callum Wilson's coming back, Gradle, Mings, if they can get a few of these players back and performing again, then, and like I said, make a few quality signings, like some Premier League proven signings, I think we could see Bournemouth becoming an established Premier League team, mid-table maybe, maybe soon becoming like a team like Stoke or West Brom, who don't really have threats of going down but don't really challenge the top half of the table. So great season for Bournemouth. I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. Alan Pardew's Crystal Palace are the next team. Now I'm going to rate Crystal Palace on the Premier League because I'm doing a Premier League review. I'm not going to talk about how far they got in the FA Cup and that, but we're going to talk about how well they performed in the Prem. Now, Crystal Palace, first half of the season were absolutely brilliant. They were up there. They were just outside the top four, 5th, 6th. They were, they got a brilliant result away at Chelsea where they won 3-1. They got some good results and they really did challenge in that top half of the table. Second half of the season, I don't know what happened to them. They just, the wheels just come off really. And in the Premier League, they were basically fighting to keep their place in the Premier League, which is unlike Crystal Palace really, because last season they weren't looking like they were going to go down. They looked secure, and I thought I was expecting for them at the start of the season, but the second half of the season was just dreadful. If I was going to rate the first half, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. If I was going to rate the second half, I'd give it a 2 out of 10. And for that reason, overall, Crystal Palace, I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. Next was West Brom, a team that went under the radar again. They didn't make any headlines. I mean, there's loads of people say it, but if you took West Brom out of the Premier League, not many people would notice they're not there. That's how boring they are at the minute. They don't score many goals. They don't challenge the top half of the table. They're just a boring team, really, West Brom. But I think their main aim is to keep themselves in the Premier League, and they've done it. So it's a decent season for Tony Pulis and West Brom, and that's why I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. The next team is Watford, and in my opinion, Watford have had an absolute brilliant season. A lot of people at the start of the season expecting them to go down, and comfortably as well, not even challenging to keep their place. But not only have they stayed in the Premier League, they've comfortably stayed in it as well, coming 13th. And I know I'm not going to rate them on the cup performance, but they did. Quique Sanchez Flores did get them to an FA Cup semi-final and finished 13th in the league with them when he was only expected to keep them up. And somehow he's earned the sack, which I can't understand. So if the new manager that comes in for Watford does a bad job and gets them relegated, the Watford board are going to get a lot of stick off the Watford fans, I'd imagine. But in my opinion, Watford have had a brilliant season, and that's why I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. Coming in at 12th was Swansea. Quite a quiet season for Swansea. First half of the season they were terrible. Gary Monk got the sack. They looked like they were in the bottom 3 actually. They looked like they was going to be battling to stay in the Premier League, which is unlike Swansea, because last few seasons have been pretty decent in the Premier League, and they've come around mid-table. So for them, this season at the start was probably quite a bad one. But the new manager come in for them, and he turned it around for them, and they got a solid mid-table finish. So I think a decent season for Swansea, and that's why I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. The next team are Everton, and in my opinion, they've had a dreadful season under Roberto Martinez. Rightfully earned the sack. Coming in at 11th, which isn't good enough for Everton considering the players they've got. Lukaku, Barkley, Deulofeu, Gareth Barry on his day could be quality. They've got some real top quality players, Everton, and the fact Roberto Martinez has not even got him in the top half is rightfully earned the sack for that. If they can get a decent manager in next season, Everton, someone like De Boer, someone like maybe even Van Gaal now that he's been sacked from United, I think they could have a decent season under one of them too. So a poor season for Everton and Roberto Martinez. I expected a lot higher for them. I expected maybe even like 7th or even as high as 5th or 6th, but they've come 11th, and that's why I'm going to give them a 3 out of 10. Moving on now to the top half of the table. Coming in at 10th, Chelsea, which is absolute, it's dreadful. And straight away I'm going to give them a 1 out of 10, because going from Premier League champions in May, 1 year later to come 10th, I mean, it's unheard of. And Mourinho, obviously, earlier on in the season, rightfully earning the sack, in my opinion. A lot of Chelsea fans disagreed with it. But in my opinion, I would have wanted him gone, because they was in the bottom half for at least 70% of the season. So a dreadful season for Chelsea. They've got in Conte for next season. I mean, Gus Hiddink's done a decent job for them. He's come in and because they look like it. I'm going to say it. Chelsea potentially could have gone down, because they were about 14th for a large portion of the season. So Hiddink's come in and he's done an all right job. But I'm going to give Chelsea a 1 out of 10, as I said. But next season, I think they'll be back in that top 4 next season if Conte comes in and he makes a few good signings. But 1 out of 10 for Chelsea. 9th place was Stoke City. Another solid 9th place finish for them. That's 3 seasons in a row now, I believe. That's what Stoke have come in 9th which is, it's decent because it's consistent. But considering how much money they spent, they probably should be getting a bit higher than 9th now. Players like Shaqiri, Bojan coming in. Some quality players they've got there at Stoke. So Mark Hughes has done an alright job there this season. I can't see them going down anytime soon, but I can't really see them pushing for the top 6, which they probably should be. And that's why I'm going to give Stoke a 7 out of 10. 8th was Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp. They started off the season with Brendan Rodgers, obviously Liverpool, and he was, after his bad season last season, not getting them in the top 4, he got the sack after a few poor run of games, and they appointed Jurgen Klopp, which is probably one of the best decisions of the season, because I know he's not done wonders this season, but considering it wasn't his squad, and the fact that he come in and everyone was on a low at Liverpool, I think he's done a good job there, Klopp. I know 8th sounds bad, but next season, if they can bring in at least three world-class or some top quality players, then I think they could potentially challenge for the title next season, Liverpool, or definitely top 4. I do think they'll get top 4 next season, Liverpool. But this season, I'm going to give it, the first half of the season, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10, because they have been inconsistent. Overall, I'll probably give them a 6 because, like I said, Jurgen Klopp coming in, he's done a good job. But hopefully next season he'll push on for them and they'll challenge for that title, maybe even top 4. 7th place was West Ham United. A quality season for them. 7th sounds a bit underwhelming for them, but because they were in the top 5, top 6 for the whole season basically. And Bilic has come in his first season. He made some top class signings in Payet. The standout one. He's had a brilliant season. West Ham, obviously, because Man United won the FA Cup, they do get Europa League football next season. They've got to play, I believe, one qualifying round and then a playoff to get into it, but they shouldn't have any problem because there aren't many quality teams there. So West Ham look like they're going to have Europa League football next season, which is a major achievement for Bilic's first season with West Ham. And they move into the Olympic Stadium with a bright future. So hopefully West Ham, if they can make some world-class signings, I think they could be challenging for the top 5, top 4 next season. So West Ham are definitely a team to look out for. I'm going to give their season an 8 out of 10. In at 6th was Southampton. Ronald Koeman doing a brilliant job over there at St Mary's. He's got some quality players there in Tadic, Mane, Pella. He got some good results throughout the season. To be honest, I think they did go under a bit under the radar, Southampton. They didn't make too many headlines, but then it seems that the last few games they put some good results together, and they pipped West Ham to 6th. So they will be playing Europa League football next season, and as well, if Ronald Koeman can go out and get some top players, I think they could be challenging for the top 5, top 4 next season. So Southampton have had a brilliant season. Hopefully next season they'll push on, and try and challenge for them top 5, top 4 places. So I'm going to give their season a 9 out of 10. In at 5th was Louis van Gaal's Man United. They looked like with about 3 games to go they were going to get 4th, because if they'd beat West Ham at Upton Park, they would have got Champions League football next season, and that probably would have saved Louis van Gaal's job. But he has got United into the Europa League next season, which ain't good enough for a club like them. Looks like they're going to appoint Jose Mourinho, which is in the short term a great appointment. In the long term, not so much, because we all know the reputation Jose Mourinho's got. He goes to the club for about 3 or 4 years. He does brilliantly, he wins a few titles, some trophies, but then he'll leave them in a mess, and that's what Man United fans should be probably worried about. But in the short term, he probably will make them challenge for the title. He probably will get them back into the Champions League and challenge them for that again. But rating their season, Louis van Gaal, I think they scored about 46 goals this season. And I saw a stat actually. Man United this season scored 46 goals. Blackpool in 2011 scored about 55, and Blackpool went down that season. So that just proves how poor Man United are going forward. You do have to give Louis van Gaal some credit though, because he's brought through players like Lingard and Rashford, which are some quality players. But he's rightfully earned the sack in my opinion. Not getting top 4 it's unacceptable at Man United. And hopefully next season with Mourinho they probably will get back in the top 4. Maybe not straight away, but if he can make a few signings, I think they will be up there. but I'm going to rate their season a 4 out of 10. Fourth was Man City, and Pellegrini obviously leaving now, and Pep Guardiola's going to come in to replace him. But in my opinion, this has been a terrible season for Man City. I know they got to the semi-finals of the Champions League and they won the Capital One Cup, but to come fourth with that squad they had and the amount of money they spent, 50 million on De Bruyne, 50 million on Sterling, they've got to be doing better than fourth, and they didn't even really challenge for the title in the end. So a poor season in the Premier League for Man City. Next season I think they will be a real force if Guardiola comes in and makes some quality signings, which he probably will do, because he's going to have unlimited amount of money to spend. But this season I'm going to give Man City a 5, because they really should have been winning the league with that squad they've got, and especially on how poor everyone else has been, like Chelsea, Liverpool and United. So they should have been doing a lot better this season, and like I said, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. In at third, unexpectedly, was Tottenham Hotspurs. A lot of their fans have said that this has been their best season ever in the Premier League era. They put up a good title challenge, but Tottenham Hotspur are probably the only team that can come third in a 2-horse race. So I was buzzing on the day when we pipped them to it. Obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan, and I was absolutely buzzing for it, because I weren't celebrating the fact that we finished above them again. I was celebrating the fact that they fucked it up again, and it's just brilliant to see, because of getting stick all season of Tottenham fans are going to come above us, they're going to win the league, going to do this, going to do that, and then the fact on the last day we pipped them to it was just brilliant. But Tottenham overall have had a good season. Dele Alli's come through, Harry Kane's proved that he didn't have a one-season wonder, and he's got the golden boot. Christian Eriksen, obviously a quality player, and I'm going to give Tottenham an 8 out of 10, because they did challenge for the title and they have got their aim, which was top 4. In at second, and I don't know how we've done it, it's my team, Arsenal. In my opinion, this has been one of our worst seasons in a long time, and I know it's probably weird saying that because we've come second, but I think that does put paper over the cracks a lot, because we did get battered at places like Southampton, and we lost at home to Swansea, Chelsea, drew to Southampton at home, and we did bottle it, because at Christmas, New Year's, we were top of the league and it was ours to lose. And Leicester, obviously you can't take anything away from them, but we really should have won it this season. We're not going to get a better chance to, because of next season you've got Guardiola, Mourinho, Conte all coming in, Jurgen Klopp's going to strengthen, and it's going to be really difficult, Arsenal, to win the league next season. So in my opinion, I'm going to give Arsenal a 6 out of 10, because we have come second, but that doesn't tell the full story by any stretch of the imagination. So 6 out of 10 for Arsenal, and hopefully next season we'll put a real challenge up, because towards the end, the second half of the season, we were definitely a 2 out of 10 in my opinion, but overall 6 out of 10 for Arsenal. Now the final one, Premier League champions Leicester City. What an achievement, probably the greatest sporting achievement ever, if not football, definitely. I mean, I'm still not over it, the fact that a team, bottom of the league for 80% of last season, put a 6-game winning streak together, escaped, the next season, bringing in a new manager, not even making any, marquee signings, not spending over, I think they spent about 20 million in the summer. They brought in, Kante. Mahrez was already there, but he weren't given his chance yet. It just baffles me how they've done it, and I can't take anything away from them. But I think if the Man Uniteds were, Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United, if that team was about, if Arsenal's Invincibles were about, I don't think they would have won it. But they've been brilliant all season and they've deserved it. And it's just, as a neutral, like if I forget that I'm an Arsenal fan or whatever, as a neutral it's great to see, because over the last 10 years or so it's been the same teams, United, Chelsea, City, it's been them three mainly. And to see a small club like Leicester to do it, with a manager that got sacked from Chelsea because he weren't good enough and he weren't going to win the league in Abramovich's opinion, to come to Leicester and spend 20 million and win the league, it's just amazing. So full credit to Leicester, congratulations, and that you know, it's just amazing, that the fact that they've won the league. So that's the end of the video, guys. Make sure if you enjoyed my 2015-16 Premier League season review, you do hit that like button because it helps me out. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you later.